Did they find any personal effects of people?
Yeah.
They did.
We found suitcases and all kinds of stuff out here, right where this is. And little kids' toys, and like a stuffed animal and stuff like that. There was a lot of that stuff all over the place.
So, have you been back here since 1987?
No.
It's your first time today?
First time today.
What kind of emotions does that bring up in you?
A lot.
Yeah.
What was some of your first memories?
The smell.
Did it play in your head as we were walking
when I was
here?
walking up the hill, I could still smell it.
I imagine that does not go away.
No. Thinking when I get up here, how many bodies, how many parts I'm going to see on the ground.
In those parts, and it's so funny, but I imagine in your situation, you just have to be, okay, I'm looking for, you disassociate that from being people. You have to get through it.
You can't.
No, you can't, but on a certain level you are, otherwise you wouldn't be able to do it. You know what I mean? Because how are other people reacting?
We were all in shock.
Bet you it was pretty quiet here, huh? Even with all those people.
A lot of radios going on.
Right.
A lot of different people talking on the radios.
Right.
Searching for stuff. Searching for bodies.
Were you here when they found the little girl?
No.
No.
They found her before I got here. But
Thank God.
They did announce to us that they found one person so far.
So that gave you
we
hope.
need to get out. We need to get out there and look for
Find
anybody
somebody.
else. And by 11 o'clock, they decided to call it off for the night.
And so those guys those people in the seats were found last because, again, this was all woods and you couldn't see them.
Couldn't see them. And we weren't out here looking for any more bodies because the people that died on the freeway, they thought they had everybody.
Right.
So 3 weeks later, we find them on a
Oh,
seat.
you're kidding.
Find the seats out in the woods.
It's weird that so many things were still intact with as massive as the fire was. Like you found suitcases, you found personal effects, you found, but every human being was burned?
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. So it seems like the fire was actually in the fuselage and the stuff underneath where the luggage would be and stuff.
Probably as things ripped open.
Oh,
down
yeah.
The freeway.
Right. Flying all over the place.
And during the explosion, stuff gets blown out and that's what happened with people in the
Those
seats.
people on the freeway probably just didn't even know anything. They're driving and just boom, you're dead.
Just a flash of light.
Right. And probably didn't even have time to register that flash of light. You know what I mean?
Right.
What a tragic way to go. Yeah, that was a horrible, horrible story. But I've always thought it's so inspirational that that one 4-year-old little girl survived for all of these people. And I don't know what her purpose is, but boy does she have one. She has one because all of those people died and she did not. She was only 4. That's amazing.
I wonder did they ever say what might have protected that girl? Or?
There was a body on top of her.
Yeah, I thought the mother was hovering over.
Well, they say they assume
something.
it was her mother. They're not
Sure.
sure.
Could have been her father, could have been her mother, could have been both of them. Because they're finding parts and everything. And like I said, the seat could have protected her too.
Right, because she was small. But there were other little kids, 5, 3, 7.
An infant.
An infant, the 4-month-old, yeah. Oh, that would be awful. That would be harder than anything is to find a kid. You know, something you know a kid's parts, they're small. And that would just be, and just looking at the memorial, so many families, whole families were just wiped out. And that's
Well, even standing here and watching the flight patterns while we're doing this is weird.
Right. You want to duck.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you do. Probably more so.
And I never thought of, like John said, with that all those huge gas.
Well, I've always thought that was odd because I remember
facility right
a small
there.
plane hitting one of those tanks down by Inkster, right? And it was a single engine plane, and it just crashed right into the tank, and obviously and I remember people saying then, thank God it wasn't one of the jetliners. Thank God it didn't come, because that would have been horrifying. And then to have this happen so close, you would think that they wouldn't be allowed to have these near the airport.
Well, this is how the airport gets their fuel.
I know.
I mean, this is their gas station. Their gas trucks come from this onto the runway.
Bet you nobody forgets their flaps again. I mean, I bet you nobody turns the alarm off anymore. But you do. You get lackadays about everything. Yeah, we all do.
Yes.
I don't need that. I know what I'm doing. But then sometimes you just don't, because the weather was so bad that night. There were storms going through, and I remember that. And when they broke in on TV, they said what happened, and they showed the Avis building, I didn't know where Grandma was, and you kind of start freaking out.
Which Carol and Janet, holding the camera, part of P.P.I, their grandma worked at the Avis building where the plane hit that building before it hit the ground.
Right.
So yes, watching the TV, wondering, is grandma
okay? Right, because they were often, they drove cars back and forth, so she was always in the parking lot. Often, especially that time of night, because it would be her last run.
Right.
And so yeah, she was the first person I called, and I'm like, oh my God. And then, of course, then they had a mess to clean over there. I mean, they had, I'm sure, county workers.
How many? What was the car's line?
Firebirds.
Firebirds. Brand
new. They're in a rental agency.
Lease rental, a whole fleet of Firebirds ruined.
And more, I'm sure.
Just everything from
Wick and Middlebelt.
So the freeway was on fire, burning. I can imagine. So, did you see fire when you got here?
Before you got here?
From there to the freeway, or was it pretty much just the fire down to where the planes?
What was left when I got here at 9:30? The only thing that was still burning was the wings and part of the fuselage. But they had most of the fire out. There was little hot spots here and there.
Right.
But
so I'm sure they got here very quick, being that the airport has their own. So thank God.
They had the big truck with the big gun.
Right.
And squirt everything. But like I said, other rescue units and everything else.
Right, had to come, right. Because Romulus, at that point anyway, didn't have a very big fire department in and of itself. Yeah, they would have to. I didn't realize that they came all over like that, though. That just had to be awful, awful, awful.
Well, you do it in shifts. You send so many people in from different locations because you still have to fight fires in your own location.
Right.
You can't.
So you can't send everybody, right?
Yeah.
But when the help is necessary, you have to
send it.
Yeah. That's awful. So you said it was a crime scene on the freeway?
Basically, this whole thing was a crime scene.
They considered it a crime scene till they proved what happened. Yeah. Right, you're right. Could have been a bomb or something. Right. You're right. That makes sense. I mean, right now, I'm sure if it happened today, we would automatically think somebody bombed the plane, But then, that wasn't a thing, not here anyway.
Well, terrorists would take over a plane and they'd have you fly somewhere.
Yeah.
Land.
Yeah.
In another country.
Right, that's what they did back then. But yeah.
So in comparison, now that you mentioned terrorism, so this area, can you imagine the 9/11 site?
Yeah. Oh, right. Absolutely. Well, after the first one, I'm sure, like everybody else in the world, we thought it was just a horrible accident. Till the second plane hit, then you realize it's not an accident anymore. You know. But yeah, I mean, and being someplace like this is enough to make you not fly anymore. But at the same time, it's still it's still one of the safest places to safest means of travel.
That was natural gas?
Yeah, that's natural gas. I don't want
Oh, I smell it.
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
That's natural. We just got whiffs
Oh,
of natural gas.
I smell it.
All right, let's get our
We gotta
equipment and
investigate
go.
now.
For some reason,
Odd.
we're having whiffs of natural gas.
Yeah, I am. It's weird.
Okay. Well, being there's lots of pipes underground and we're smelling
there's no pipes
the
running through here.
Well,
No. They're all over there.
Yeah.
we got to walk back that way. So don't take a cigarette with you that way.
It was weird though, because we didn't smell it the whole time we were here.
Wind changed.
Yeah.
Well, again,
Or something spiritual is happening.
right? Look at 1, 2, 3.
Oh, there's a ton.
planes, 4,
There, I don't know how
birds.
many there's been since we've been seeing here.
And butterflies are all over the area.
I know, the butterflies. It's nice.
Well, again, this is John Moore, and I want to thank you for your time and
Yes, thank you, John.
telling us what
Thank you for doing
some of
this.
your
It's
difficult memories
gotta
were
be
of this
hard.
event.
And I hope it doesn't leave you in a bad spot.
No, I'll be fine. It's good to get out here and look at it.
It is. Seeing that it's a pretty place now.
You'd be surprised it might close some stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it might.
Wishful?
You never know, it might. As I imagine that just had to be one of, I hope, the worst thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I hope you don't experience anything else. Everybody should only have one of those.
You shouldn't even have
One of
one,
those.
but if you got to,
Right, no
one
more.
should be the limit.
All right.
So all these trees were here then, but they had to replant.
All the
Were they burned or?
in front of this, all this stuff was burnt.
Yeah.
And this was just a wooded area. Like if you go down 94, you'll see woods in the middle.
Uh-huh.
That's how this was.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then a lot of trees were broken, burnt
Yeah.
down, stuff like that. We were walking through a maze. And we had to, like I said, we had to come through here and look for parts. And that's when
Amongst all the branches and
everything else
hot
burnt.
Everything
spots
else and-
And if we find a part or whatever, like I said, we had to get someone over to GPS it, put it on, and then we go put it on the truck and we'll take it to Willow Run.
And that was not a small task back then. They didn't have the equipment that we do
Right.
now to, somebody could come over and say, okay, this is where we are. You know,
Right.
they had to.
Whip out your cell phone, get your
Right.
coordinates.
They had to figure out where they were.
We had machines back then too.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the
It's on
military
your
and
cell
stuff
phone now.
did. And
They gridded everything out. So we knew where everything was. We just had to make sure that they came over and told us what grid we were in, wrote it down before we picked it up. And they wanted to take a picture of it before we picked it up
sure,
to see where it was, exactly how it was.
right.
How it landed, essentially.
Yeah, what happened, what
Because
exploded
this was
when.
all part of the investigation.
Right. Oh yeah, they're very detailed in those plane
Right.
crash investigations. It's
They still might be doing it.
they could be. Who knows? Who knows?
Someone's full-time job.
Oh yeah. But I know I don't remember now if it was 255, but I remember a plane crashing and them doing that reconstruction in a hangar somewhere. But I don't know if it was 255 or I was just watching another one.
They all do that with all of them.
Well, yeah, they do
Yeah.
all do it, but I don't know the one I watched.
But that's where 255 is in the hangar at Willow Run.
Right.
So
Wow.
no trespassing. I go over there once in a while. I see that they have it all
So
encased.
Nobody can
No
get in
one
there.
can get in unless they're part of the FAA.
Wow.
You have to be part of the FAA in order to get into that particular part of the hangar.
There was a ton of people out here then from the FAA, I imagine, and the state police, the Air Force, the fire departments from all over Wayne County, eh?
Yeah, Wayne County, Oakland County, and Washtenaw.
That's big when you start factoring. You get in Ann Arbor and Detroit in there. That's a lot of fire.
Well, the thing is, they also had Monroe too.
Okay.
But the airport has its own fire department.
Right.
And they were on scene too. So.
Wow.
So we're with personal artifacts. I'm just thinking for family members of the victims.
Were
Did they
able
ever
to give anything
able
back?
to go get any of that
I
stuff?
have no idea.
Oh.
Something we could check.
That's a good question because, like I said, anything that wasn't a body was put on a truck and taken to Willow Run.
Okay.
Be sorted.
Oh, and there's an interesting fact. Tell them what you told us earlier about Willow Run.
Well, Flight 255 is still at Willow Run now.
It's amazing.
The FAA rents a hangar, and they drew out the plane's fuselage.
Right, I remember seeing that.
And they tried to put it back in place. Everything where the parts go.
Wow. And now they're just keeping it there for prosperity or
I have no idea. They're still researching it as far as I know.
Wow. Because the cause of the crash was the landing gear didn't pull up?
No, the flaps were down
so that wasn't allowing it to gain altitude.
To lift. It was dragging it down.
Right.
So no matter how fast they were going, they were still dropping.
It's awful. And that was found to be a defect of the plane, not the pilot, correct?
Actually, the pilots turned that alarm off, and a lot of them did do that at the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't check, when you're checking your stuff, if you don't check to make sure that the flaps are up or working correctly, then you're going to go right to the ground.
Because this guy was pretty experienced. He had near 30,000 hours flight logged. So he was experienced, and his other pilots and stuff respected him and thought he was a good pilot and careful and did everything by the book. That's what they said. He was a by-the-book guy.
But
apparently not.
Well, the last crew would have turned it off.
Oh.
And he's not paying attention. He doesn't hear the alarm.
Right. So no alarm ever alerted him to that fact.
Right. So.
Wow. Just real. I imagine you had nightmares after that, or still do, maybe.
Sometimes.
Because that's a horrible thing at 20 years old. I mean, I don't know if you're ever old enough to process that, but at 20, it just seems like, gosh, oh, here comes somebody.
I was actually 22.